We're going to start on mobilizing our ankles, warming them up, as well as working on our balance. So transition your weight onto one leg and do ankle circles about 10 outwards. Now go 10 inwards. Really exaggerate the circle movement as much as you can. Now switch sides and repeat the same exact thing, 10 outwards. And now 10 reverse. And also to make a note that you don't want to drop your hip or excessively lift your hip. You want to keep those two pointy parts in your hip completely even. So really work on that to work that gluteus medius muscle. Very important muscles for stability of your pelvis when you're running. Now just transition your weight back and forth, going onto the ball of your foot to start to stretch the plantar fascia underneath the foot. And now transition, roll your ankle inward and outward, warming up the ligaments as well and the toes of the foot to prepare them to push off before you start to run. Now I'm just saying this because these would be a great series of warm-ups to do before you go for your run, as well as just warming up the muscles in general when we are doing these exercises to help to strengthen the knee during our knee recovery before we start to run full out again. Now about 5 circles inwards, rolling up on your toes, and switch sides. So try to exaggerate the motion as much as possible. So you're warming up the tendons, the muscles, the ligaments, the joints of the foot. All right, now we're going to start to warm up the knees a little bit more specifically. So we're just going to do quarter lunges. So the feet aren't that wide apart and we don't want to let the knee fall inwards. We want to keep the knee pressing outwards. Really work on that. Press the knee out over the toes or even on the outside of the foot. Now just quick little transitions here. Now we're going to hold. So in this, I want you to keep upright. I don't want you to lean excessively forward and I don't want you to lean excessively back. Keep an upright posture and maintain that quarter squat. So there's quarter, half, and full, which would be like completely down, your knees bent to its max. 50 would be your knee is at like a 90-degree angle. Here we want it to maintain at this angle. Keep your core nice and tight as well, so suck your belly button to your spine as if someone's about to punch you right in the gut. These holds here are called isometric contractions. That's the contraction of the muscle. Again, don't let that knee fall inward. Squeeze that glute. Have that knee pressing outwards. So when we do isometric contractions, the muscle is contracting while maintaining the same length of the muscle. Okay? So when running, we're doing a various degree of concentric and eccentric contractions, but when we're trying to rehab the knee, start stressing the tendons again to wake them up a little bit, we want to gradually stress them so that we're making them stronger and actually not making them weaker and leaving you with continuous pain that just gets worse and worse and worse over time. Now slowly recover and shimmy your feet back in heel toe, so you don't injure yourself. Now remove your socks. We're going to briefly work on a little bit of foot mobility. So you're going to place each of your fingers between your toes if you can. Do your best here. You may not be able to fit all of them at this point, but keep working on it. With the other hand, grab the base of your heel and you are going to do what's called a wringing of the cloth type of motion. Now, if you think this feels really good or you're noticing you have very, very poor foot mobility right now, I'm going to get you to pause it and you're actually going to go to another video. You can either do a plantar fasciitis video or even an Achilles video or even a foot and toe ankle mobility video to really get that foot working again. So you have 3 different possible options. I will leave that in the description below. Now switch sides. Even if you're only hurting on one knee, it's really important that you balance yourself out as much as possible, because even though you may have pain on one side, the dysfunction could actually be coming from an issue on the other leg and the other side as well. So make sure we're working both. Really exaggerate the movement. And again, it might hurt a little bit. We don't want any sharp pain, but some soreness, discomfort is definitely normal, as this is a motion that we're not used to doing. So with this, we're really trying to encourage the foot to be mobile and to help to distribute the forces that come with running. Running is a very extreme exercise on the body, actually. So we want to make sure the forces that we achieve from the ground are getting absorbed as much as possible. So now let's work that brain to toe mechanics here. So we're really going to lift our big toe here and then just lift the remaining toes. What this exercise is doing is it's helping to reestablish that neurological connection from the brain to the toes. If you have a hard time doing this exercise, again, I invite you to pause the video and you're going to go to the foot strengthening video, and I'm going to leave that in the description below as well. So now really try to speed this up. This should be a very fluid, easy movement. Notice how the rest of my legs and my feet aren't excessively turning in and out. I also want you to focus on that. Just have the toe movement. And now we're working on spreading the toes and relaxing. Spreading the toes and relaxing. Spread the toes and relax. Very good. Now, next set of exercises, you are going to grab a band. We're going to check our knee mobility. So grab yourself a stool again, and we're going to perform a mobility test to see how much inward rotation of the knee we have. Now, there's an important point. I don't want you to curve the toes like that or move your knee inwards or out. So reset, keep your knee exactly where it is, move your toes in, making sure your toes are completely flat on the ground. The motion that you stay there with that one side, and then complete the motion on the other side and compare. Are your feet able to move inward evenly? I work on this, so mine definitely are. You can also move your toes outwards just to check how similar that is side to side. And if it's not, that is primarily coming from that lack of inward mobility and that lack of inward mobility. So this is what we're going to work on now. Get into a lunge position, and the knee that is lacking that inward mobility, that is the foot you're going to put the elastic band right under the great toe. So the top of the big toe and the base of the big toe. And now you're going to grab with the elastic band a further down. So when you pull upward to create tension on the band, you're not allowing your heel to go either inward or outward. Adjust as needed. Make sure your heel doesn't come up. So basically, long story short, do not, I repeat, do not move your foot. So in this, you are putting tension on the band, squeezing your glute to pull your knee outwards. So now see how my knee was no longer over my ankle like it is now. So I'm doing two things, pressing down into the elastic, 2, squeezing the glute, and 3, pulling the knee outward. Again, not moving the foot. I work on this range of motion quite a bit because of my knee injury in the past. So now this is quite equal, and I have a lot more range of motion than you may have at this point. So just work on that again. Push that base of the toe into the elastic. Pull a little bit on the elastic, squeeze the glute, pull the knee out. Hold for 3 to 5 seconds. And lower. Again, push the base of the big toe, squeeze the glute, pull the elastic, pull that knee out. Stay nice and upright, core nice and tight. Are you making sure your foot is staying exactly straight? You got to repeat these things to yourself when I'm not there to correct you. Make sure your foot stays straight. Push your big toe into the elastic, squeeze the glute, pull the knee out. Hold 3 to 5 seconds. Also note how my shoulder isn't being brought to my ear. I'm just gently lifting and putting tension on that elastic and resting in between sets. Again, toe, squeeze the glute, pull the elastic and pull the knee outward. Again, grab lower down into the elastic if your arm is getting tired, and release. Give yourself a quick break. Get into that child's pose. And now if you also need to increase the other knee, I will get you to pause it now and work on the mobility of your other knee. Let's improve now the isometric contraction of the musculature and tendons that directly surround the knee. So that's your semimembranosus, your sartorius muscles. You're going to then wrap the elastic around here. So grab the side and wrap it around your heel. So when you are extending your knee, you are making sure that it's not moving and it's not gliding, so that when you're working those muscles that I just mentioned, and also the quad muscles and the patellar tendon, you're making sure that you're doing so in an effective manner. We're going to hold each for about 10 seconds, so rest for a few, and we're going to do it again. Hold for 10 seconds. If that's not enough tension, you can get another band that has more resistance, but essentially signs that it is a good enough tension is after you start to do about 6 sets, which we'll be doing, you will feel a little bit of shakiness in the leg. Extend. Really try to straighten that knee. Keep the toes pointed up to the ceiling. And control the movement back. Don't just allow your leg to drop. Slowly extend, holding, reminding you that this is called an isometric contraction. So we're starting to give the input back to the musculature surrounding the knee to properly rehab the tendons. Now we're going to stand and work on our balance as well, but also work on the extension. So if you notice there, I did a little bit of a twist there to wrap the band around my ankle again. And I'm just doing a slight little bit of the extension, working on the balance, working on that isometric contraction of the quads and the other surrounding musculature and ligaments of the knee. If it helps, you can slightly rotate your foot out to the side like I did, just to help keep that elastic band in place around my ankle so it doesn't slide. Also note here that my hips aren't dropping or they're not being lifted up to the ceiling. It's staying completely even so that I'm also working on the gluteus medius muscle. Like I said before at the beginning, very important muscle to work on when it comes to running, because as we get tired, you don't want that to become sloppy, because that just puts excess stress on the hip, on the knee, and on the ankle. And again, one more time. Really extend that knee, create that quad muscle, and release. And step back, and we will repeat the same thing on the other side. So if you haven't been running for a while because you're recovering from a knee injury, which is the proper thing you do, you want to get a little bit of a rest, decrease some inflammation, but that also means you have detrained a little bit. Your muscles aren't as used to it, so that's why we also want to do the other knee, not just the affected side. So repeat the same thing. And squeeze and extend, really get a contraction in that quad. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll just remind you that you can leave comments of questions below, or you can email me as well. And extend. Hold, 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 hold. You may notice one side is weaker than the other. And we're just going to perform our last 3 repetitions here. So make sure they're good. You're sitting upright. Toes are pointed up to the ceiling and you're really getting a good contraction and controlling that movement when you are resting. 2 more. Really contract that quad, bring the blood flow to the muscles surrounding the knee. Wake up those tendons and control the movement. And last one here. And control the movement back down. So let's stand up here. Slightly turn out that foot just to keep the band attached. Make sure you're keeping those hips nice and square. Don't let that hip drop or don't let that hip be excessively elevated. Hold for that 10 seconds, maintain that balance. Rest a little bit and extend again for another 10 seconds. And rest and extend again. If you are having a hard time balancing, by the way, you can use a chair or stand closer to a wall to be able to perform this exercise. Extend. But ideally, you are really utilizing this technique and this exercise to work on your balancing and proprioceptive skills. Because honestly, if you can't do this exercise, you shouldn't be running. Because if you can't even balance, that means when you're running, you're unbalanced to the point your muscles and joints and ligaments are excessively being activated just to try to keep you upright. Not good news. You should have optimal balance so that your body feels comfortable when you are running and doesn't put excessive stress on your joints and tendons, which you may be surprised to know, but that may have been the very reason you are in the predicament you are if your balance or your weight distribution aren't as even as they should be. But these are all the things we're going to work on in this video. So when they are flawless, you'll be ready to go again. Let's work a little bit on the balancing and strength of the arch underneath the foot as well, because we all know if the foot isn't strong or the foot isn't working optimally, that's going to have a direct impact on the knee. So now what the band is doing is it's pulling our ankle inward. So now when we take the back foot off and we slightly put a bend in our knee, very similar to what happens when we run. So again, we're mimicking that. So we're training our foot to stay very stable. We're training our balance and our proprioceptive system so that when we're running, again, it's about stability and our ability of our body to maintain an upright position for optimal muscle efficiency and joint efficiency. Again, transition weight onto one leg, slightly bend the knee as if you're accepting that transition when you are stepping from one side to the other. So really working those isometric contractions to really work that musculature. Again, transition, and even get your arms into that stance of running. So we're starting to train the nervous system again, what we expect from our body. And now I'm even going to get you to close your eyes as well for half of this to try to balance. So you can see how now my weight is starting to shift. We really want to try to keep upright. And now take a little bit of a rest. Open your eyes again if you haven't already. And I recommend having a chair being close to a wall if this is new to you. Just shift your weight, pick your foot off, get into that little bit of a runner's stance on that one side, so slightly bend your leg. And close your eyes again now that you're balanced. And maintain this position. What we're doing is we're also training our body to be separate from our vision, because sometimes we really compensate with our vision and rely on that to keep us balanced. Shake out a little bit, and we are going to switch over to now work on the stability of the knee in the same exact position. So very similar setup. We're going to put the elastic band on the outside of the knee so that the knee would be pulled in. So biggest thing here, we do not want the knee to go in like this. That is an absolute no-no. Keep the knee right over the toe and pressing outwards. Now shift onto one side, get into that bent knee position, runner stance here, and hold this positioning. So what you're doing is you're fighting against the resistance of the band to pull your knee in. So shift back and shift forward again. So now you start to see, as we're going through these exercises, we're starting to graduate a little bit. So now I'm not just slowly shifting over and then bending the knee. I'm shifting back, and then I'm pushing forward and right away lifting the back foot and demanding my body begin to now balance from this shift right away. So my knee is already bent. I shift back forward, switching the arms as well, keeping that knee outward, fighting against the resistance of that band, keeping my core nice and tight. Shifting back. You can even do this with your eyes closed now as well if you want, and if you've done this video a few times, you can try to do this whole section with your eyes closed as well. And shift back. We will switch over to the other side. Grab the band, place your foot so the band is pulling it inward again, and step out as much as you can so it's a really good resistance, really forcing your foot in so your muscles and the arch of your muscles of the foot really have to work against that. Because if you're demanding these exercises and positions of your body, you'll have no problem when you go back to running. Again, get into that runner stance, slightly bend that knee. Stay nice and upright, square. Keep that arch nice and strong. Take a break. So first shift over onto one leg. Now slightly bend the knee and get into that runner stance. Keep that knee right over the toe. Do not let that knee fall inward. If you do these little things like letting your knee fall inwards, letting your hip drop, it is all for nothing. You are just encouraging your bad habits. You need to constantly assess yourself and ask, is my foot staying strong? Is my knee staying over my toe? Is my hip staying upright? Is my hip dropping? Is my core tight? You need to constantly assess so that you are making sure when you're doing these exercises, they are being effective for you. Again, shift over. And keep upright. Remember, what did I say? Arch, ankle, knee, hip. Constantly reassess those positionings. Shift your weight over again. See now how my transition is getting smoother, and I'm going faster and faster directly into that runner stance every time. As the body starts to wake up and understand what it is that you are demanding from the body. That's the amazing thing about the body. The body will always adapt to changing circumstances placed upon it. So when you start to do these things like specific training and demanding the tendons to be contracting and stiff in a certain way, and making sure the joints understand the positioning that they should be in when you're performing a skill, is a huge thing. Lift the band up into the knee. Again, don't let that knee fall in. Keep that knee out. You really have to fight the band here to keep that knee outward. You may be getting tired. If so, pause the video. But ideally, you'd be able to work through this whole entire video without pausing it. So here, I just stepped out to the side, But really what you could do is shift back like I was showing you in the previous work. I just forgot to do that here. So instead of stepping out to the side, just shift your weight back on your back foot and transition right away to make it a little bit more functional. Also, close the eyes, work on that balance. And step back, shift that weight back. And now shift that weight back forward, quickly transitioning into that quarter squat knee stance. Close your eyes and maintain that balance. When you start to not rely on your vision to maintain your balance, that's a whole other level of stability that you will thank me for later, especially as we start to age and get older and our vision gets bad anyways. How awesome would it be that we're already prepared for that and our body's already strong and stable and has strong proprioceptive skills to maintain balance as we age, because, like I mentioned, vision does decrease. And shift back and reset. Here's where things get a little interesting. Now I'm going to check the balance and stability here with quick movements. So you're going to go up to your toes and now you're going to shift and go back down. Now here's the point. I don't want you to successfully lean forward, and I don't want you to be, when you're bending down, really load your knees. I do not want that. Load your hips. So go up, balance, go up onto your toes. We're going to hold this for about 10 seconds. Maintain, 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 and shift quickly. Go back onto your heels, making sure your weight's distributed from the base of your toe, the base of your pinky, and your heel. Should be nice and even. Core is nice and tight. I go up onto the balls of my feet and I'm holding 10 seconds. Hold, 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 hold. Shift. Down into this position. Hold. Prove to your body that you're holding it. Don't step out of this. And again, if you are having a hard time balancing with this, you should not be running. If you cannot do this simple exercise and maintain balance and joint stability, and making sure when you're doing this, your knee is over your toes, your hips are in the right position, your core is tight, you're not misplacing your balance. These are key components that your body should be able to do because they are very simple and easy. And if not, have no fear, because quality practice develops perfection over time, which your body will thank you for later. And squeeze down. So make that a very dramatic, quick movement and shift. Now we're going to go on to one side. If you are still struggling with the 2 feet, just continue to work on the 2 feet. Otherwise, work on the one. So get your balance first. Go up onto one toe. Balance, balance. It is harder. So do your best. Keep upright. Then shift down. So you're going to go into that quarter squat, sort of runner's stance here. And shift back over to the other side now. Get your balance, shift it onto one toes, balance, 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 maintain, maintain, maintain. Just showing you from a different angle here. Shift down. Maintain, maintain, fight for it, stay upright. Demand more of your body and tendons and ligaments and joints. Other side now. Arms up to the ceiling, up onto the toes, balance, 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 balance. Shift down. Core nice and strong, making sure that knee is over that toe. Other side, shift your weight, arms up, core tight, up onto your toes, balance, 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 stay focused. Shift. Hold here, fight for it. Again, if you are having a hard time doing this, switch back over the 2 legs. If you've missed 2, 3 in a row, just go with the 2 legs and work on that. Again, shift arms up, core tight, balance, 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 fight for it. Demand your body to work on that stability. Shift down. So this exercise is huge, 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 huge. And a lot of athletes even have a hard time doing this. So it's kind of interesting, right? We expect our body to do these major things like running 5 kilometers or a whole marathon. And if you can't even do this simple exercise stability, that's no wonder why you are developing pain and dysfunction, because your body isn't able or capable of maintaining its own stability. So once you work on these things and they become more equal and it starts to look more like what I'm doing, very stable, strong, and sturdy, your running speed, quality, efficiency will be improved significantly. Because now, since you're doing this video, I know you've already had an injury. So now the work becomes, how do we prevent future injury or further injury? And that's exactly what we're accomplishing right now. Awesome job. Now we're going to work on little baby plyometric exercises to now further enhance the stability. So step back onto one leg and hop onto the other. Again, maintaining that 3 to 5 second balance. Shift back, hop, and see how my knee, oh, I got to reset there. See how my knee is going right over the toe, staying in line. I'm staying upright. When I shift back and I hop onto the knee, my foot's strong, my knee is strong, my hip is strong, my core is strong, my balance is on point. That is what we're going for. So push, push, off, hop, stabilize. 3 to 5 seconds. Prove to yourself that you can do it. Don't just let yourself step back. Hold, stabilize, 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 stabilize. Good. And again, same leg, same leg. Shift, hold, balance, balance. And now let's do it on the other side. And shift, balance, stable, stable. And hop, maintain. Keep those hips straight, knee where it should be, arch nice and strong. And shift. Stay nice and strong. Shift back and go, hop. Again, if you are having a hard time doing this, are you guessing what I'm going to say? Right? This is showing you your weaknesses, because this slight shift that I'm showing you is exactly what's happening when we're running, right? When we push off from one leg to the other. But when we do this, our hip goes out, our knee goes in, our arch falls inward. That's what's happening on that minute level when you're running back and forth. You just don't notice because you just immediately keep shifting your weight side to side. So it's important that you know your weaknesses so that you can work on them. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with even more injuries. Now we're going to finish off with balancing out our weight distribution. So keep those heels against the wall, our glutes, our shoulders and head if you can. This is a perfect posture, by the way. So now you're going to shift your weight side to side. You want this to be as equal as possible. Meaning, if you have a harder time bending over, say for example to the left, and by the way, do not let your hips move back and forth. You keep your hips where they are, and moving your upper body side to side. So again, like I was saying, if you have a harder time side bending over to the left, for example, you only bend that far to the right. So feel where your fingers are reaching down to your less mobile side and only go that far down on your quote unquote good side. And every time try to go a millimeter further on your bad side and even that out on your other side. So what we're doing, we're training our brain to say, okay, when we are moving, when we are running, when we are walking, and spread your feet a little bit farther apart. We're going to do another 10 on each side. We are distributing the weight equally 50-50. Because if you have a harder time side bending over to your left versus your right, or your right over to your left, that means you are bending more when you're running. You are transitioning more of your weight onto your good side and less onto your quote unquote bad side. And I'm just saying that in terms of mobility, right? Because usually, and spread your feet a little bit more, the knee that you feel more of the discomfort on, that's typically the side that you have an easier time bending over to, because what's happening is the knee is taking on way too much load and way too much uneven weight distribution, and that is what's prematurely wearing it down, because your weight is no longer 50-50, it's more like 55-45 or 60-40 sort of idea. So this exercise will help to even your spine out, help to even out your weight distribution, to retrain your body. Now this exercise as well would be a phenomenal exercise to do every time before you go for your run, to remind your nervous system what even is, so you don't fall back into those bad habits and predispose yourself again to re-injury. So we did 10 with our feet together, 10 with a little bit farther apart, another 10 with a little bit farther apart, and we're finishing off the last 10 side to side with our feet in line with our hips again. And that's it. I want to thank you guys for sticking with this video. And please, again, if you're recovering from an ankle injury, or sorry, a knee injury, continue to do this video, honestly, if you can, every second day, especially if you're itching to get back running because you've been off running for a while, because you're trying to mend an injury and actually recover from it. Then you want to try to wake up and prepare your tendons around your knee and your joints of your knees and your ankles and your hips to accept proper running form when you go back out running. I only want the best for you guys. So thank you very much for following along with me. And as always, leave any questions in the comments below or email me. Leave any suggestions of videos you would want to see from me in the future. And don't forget to subscribe, because once you do, you'll be notified of all the new videos that I release in the future. Thanks for all your support.